So for those of you who are new to Money Makeover, this is a challenge we run every year at City Press in partnership with Absa. So we take 6 people through a money bootcamp by pairing them with a financial advisor. Now, some of our candidates usually have either an existing side business or they were planning on starting one. And what we've seen over the years is how important it is for an entrepreneur to have their own finances in order, let alone the business. I'm talking about just getting their own finances in order. And part of this process is to separate business and personal finances, because this helps them to better manage cash flow, which, if you own a business, you will know is the lifeline of a business. And we really focused on that a lot last year with Bella. If for those of you who followed last year, you will know Bella. She had a construction business, and that was a really key focus for us with her, separating her personal and her business finances. This year, we've been focusing on business plans. And please pick up a copy of City Press this Sunday, because we will be sharing Wandili's experience of drawing up his business plan for his cleaning business that he wants to start with his family. And it was just really interesting to get the feedback from Wandili about the aspects of the business plan that he found quite challenging. And that was really around financial projections. And it was quite interesting as well for me is that Wandili's had a business before and the business didn't work out. And he identified after doing this business plan that not being able to have a handle, not having a proper handle on his financial side of the business plan had actually been his downfall. So these are really, really important topics for budding entrepreneurs. And this evening, I am joined by 2 small business experts. We have Kaletso Twayele, Head of Enterprise Development at Absa, and Henry Gashukia, who's Head of Credit for SMEs at Absa. This is an interactive session, so please post your questions and we will answer them. We'll also be posting links to articles that relate to our discussions for you to read for additional information. But first up, I want to welcome Kalaletso, who is also known as KK. So thank you so much, KK, for joining us this evening.
Thank you for the opportunity, Maya, and a good evening to all our listeners and viewers out there.
Great, and I hope they're lining up some really challenging questions for you there, KK. But I want to start off with this idea of a business plan. You know, we talk about a business plan, and I think we know what's supposed to be in a business plan, but what actually should be in it, and how important is it?
Thank you, Maya. I think what we also need to do is to demystify this daunting picture of a business plan. Whenever you talk to anybody about a business plan, they get extremely worried. They think of bringing in a consultant. They think of having to go through an arduous process of getting the right templates. But what is actually important about a business plan is that it must reflect the reality of the entrepreneur. So we try and avoid bringing in consultants, because at the end of the day, your business plan has to have your personal imprint. And the really great elements or the necessary elements of a business plan are simplicity. It must cover your entire vision. So elements like, who is my market? Who are my suppliers? What are the other stakeholders that I need to make sure that are brought in to this business plan? Because it's also a living document. It must cover, most importantly, elements of the market that you're trying to break into. You must be very well defined. You must then cover what are the resources that you will need to make this business a reality. Again, don't go into, too much detail around, trying to make it very complex. It must be simple. It must be well understood, and it must also cover what's critical. So I've spoken about the market. I've spoken about the resources. Know your competition and articulate it well into that business plan. And when you look at the financial aspects that are enshrined in the cash flow projections, it must be realistic. It must actually talk to the reality of being business. And it must also follow the cycles of the business. So it must never show a perfect picture, because that perfect picture is not reflective of the real business world. And again, I can never overemphasize the fact that it must be personal, you must be involved, and you must actually take us through the journey of your vision into that business plan. And I think that is the most important element of the business plan.
And I think also, when you and I were chatting about it, you also said you don't just, once you've done the business plan, you don't just stick it in a drawer, I mean, I think 85% of businesses fail in the first 3 years. And I would be very interested to know how many of those 85 that failed either A, didn't have a business plan at all, or B, kind of did the file 13 with the business plan.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, starting a small business is tough because you have to already compete with an established ecosystem in the market. But what we find is that most people who stick to their business plan have researched it well, have become realistic even in terms of their projections, and have brought in the right stakeholders as part of their overall business, have a much greater chance of success.
Absolutely. So I'm going to, I think we're going to bring Henry in now because Henry, of course, is the chap who's going to lend us the money when we've got the business plan. So Henry's the money bags man. Henry, we've listened to KK, the importance of a business plan. But when a business owner pitches up in front of you and they say, hey, I need money, what do you expect from them? What do you need to be hearing from them to give them that check?
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity and greetings to you all. I think the first thing I would ask you is, or try and convince you, is that I am actually here to give you the money. And as KK said, show me your business plan. Tell me your story. Don't overcomplicate it. Just sit down and talk me through your story. What is it that you are dreaming about? And Maya, the topic that you picked up, prepare your business for funding. And you clearly say it is not about a lack of funding, it's a lack of planning. Research has shown that it's not, funding is the easiest bit, but the more important bit is the plan that supports the funding and the implementation of that plan. It's critical. And I know I haven't gone into what it is I need from you before I can give you the credit. I'm sitting a lot on what KK has been saying, because that's where the foundation is. I mean, you can lie down and dream about your plans, but don't forget to wake up and start doing the hard work. You've got to make it work for you. So I normally have a conversation. That's what it's all about. What business are you in? Where are you going to be operating? What product are you selling? How much are you going to charge for it? Who's your competition, as KK has said? How much do you think you're going to sell this month and next month? And you had KK talk about the cash flow, because all those plans and details and research that you've done about your business, your story, your passion, will all have the numbers. And those numbers are going to be, the simplest form is a cash flow. Henry, I'm going to be selling so much over the next 12 months and over the next 24 months. Fine, that's how much you'll be making. These are the expenses that I'm going to be having, right? So this is a profit that I expect. And with this kind of profit that I expect, if I borrow a certain amount from you, I'll be able to pay you back and still have a balance to grow my business in the future, to reinvest in my business in the future. So clearly, once you tell me that, I'll say, okay, the sales that you're projecting over the next 12 months, how did you think about it? What assumptions did you have? Was it a best case scenario that you're going to sell all your 100 hamburgers in one day? Or did you have a best case scenario to say, if I sell my highest target, it will be this much, my medium target and my minimum? The same thing. So each particular line, I will want to understand each and every assumption that you're putting there, so that I can be able to assess whether, are you being too overly ambitious? Are there certain things that you have not considered? The expense line that you're saying here, that you're going to pay salaries of so much, are you aware that the minimum salary is X? So you cannot pay below that minimum salary. So it's to actually understand the reasoning behind the number. Then I'll be able to know, oh, if it works out as planned, then I can lend you the money. But then that will inform me, how much money do you need? Because many walk in and say, I need $1 million. Okay, let's talk about the million. What do you need the million for? All right. So you end up saying it's to pay my overheads, to pay my salaries, to pay my other expenses. Okay, how much is that? We've seen that. But when we look at your numbers, you don't spend $1 million on salaries and expenses. So why do you need the 1 million? Okay, so how much are we saying here? We need only 500,000. Okay. What about the equipment that you need? Yes, actually, there's this equipment that I will need to buy in order to do my business, which you've had the conversation. You told me the equipment is going to cost 1 million. So I need to consider giving you the 1 million that you'll pay over a period of time that will be covered by those cash flows that you showed me. So here, what am I doing? I'm saying that you have a long-term need for equipment. So I give you finance for a long-term need. Then you need money for salaries, and I give you money for a short-term need, which we call working capital, popularly known as an overdraft. So I give you a term loan, about 5 years to pay your equipment, and I give you a working capital or an overdraft of 500,000. So you pay your salaries. When you make your sales, it comes into the account, right? And once it comes into the account, it brings down the overdraft. Next month, before all your sales come in, your salaries need to be paid, you draw on the overdraft. So that's what we call matching the needs to the funding, so that we don't put money in your hand. So you walked in saying you wanted $1 million. You actually need 1.5 million to make your business plan work. So we are very keen to ensure that you get the right amount for the right purpose, and it's structured in the right way. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Yeah, it's so important. And also, just one of the other things that I picked up when it comes to funding, Henry, is you back the jockey. And I mean, that's not only somebody who understands their business, but people also, and I said right up front, get your own finances in order. So I see there's a lot of questions that we're going to get to here about, can you help me? How do I do this? I know you've got to get your own personal finances in order, because how else are you going to know whether this is somebody's going to manage their money?
Absolutely. So KK talked about the business plan that informs the numbers. You walk to me, we talk through the numbers, we establish what the best funding need is for you. Then guess what? You're the one who's going to make it happen. Tell me about yourself. I've never been in business before. Oops. Okay. So how are you going to manage this? Oh, my brother, I'm going to employ him. He's an expert. He's been doing this similar work in another company, so he knows everything about it. So you have someone capable of running the business. Have you ever borrowed elsewhere? And why am I asking you that? Because before I give you the credit, I want to understand your behavior in previous lending that has been given to you. You come and tell me, I've never borrowed money. Okay, so this is my first time. So, okay, so then I need to take the risk. Okay, your credit history, let's assume it's not going to be bad. You've got someone who knows the business who's going to work on it well. That's fine. Now, if you tell me you've borrowed before and you show me and we look at the bureau and we see that your records are well, then we'll be saying, okay, you have borrowed before. You have been responsible in managing that money before. So clearly, even in your personal capacity or whether it was another business, you know what borrowing money and paying back the money is all concerned about, because I'm in the business of lending money. So it's important that I give you that money in a way that I know you can be able to pay back, so that you can achieve the dreams that you are dreaming about. So your personal self is critical. Integrity is important. It adds a lot of confidence to the credit person who will be looking at your loan.
And such an important point, Henry, and I'm going to come to you, KK, with this. Henry spoke about, you may not have the skills. Who do you bring in that has skills. So it could be that, your financials are really, really important, but what if you want a bean counter? And I see a lot of people saying, how do I do a business plan? How do I get to that point? So how, KK, how important is it? You may have a great idea, but, how do you find the people who can help you with the areas that you struggle with?
But it's important to have the right network around you, because once you embark on that entrepreneurial journey, you will need a lot of support. So you need to choose carefully the kind of people you surround yourself with, the networks that you build. And it does really help to have a mentor, somebody who's been there, who's had the experience, who's experienced both the negatives and the positives, and also will bring in a wealth of insight, because being in business, you realize very quickly that no university, no MBA course will teach you about the realities of being in business. So it is extremely important to make sure that you have the right network and the right resources to support you. And of course, you have the right partner, which is obviously what Absa is to the entrepreneur. And we bring a lot of these capabilities through our enterprise development and the SME development programs, where we have access to finance, because like Henry said, it's important to have the funding, but more importantly to have the market. We also provide business development support and access to experts who will guide you on that critical entrepreneurship journey. But it's important to understand you cannot be in an island when you are a business person. You need to surround yourself with positivity, the right networks, and of course, a trusted advisor and a soundboard, because you will need someone who will always be able to tell you not what you want to hear, but the absolute truth and reality.
And, I'm getting a lot of questions, KK, coming up. Things like, can you assist me with a business plan to pump water and sell it? How do I do a business plan that will supply commodities for prisons? So somebody asking about a radio station. People have good ideas. There's some good ideas. Now, I don't know why you want to get into commodities for prisons. Maybe you've got a contact there. Maybe you're familiar with the industry. So what does it take you've got a good idea, but what does it take to make that idea a reality? Do you think that somebody needs to have some kind of innate knowledge in that industry, contacts? How do you take it forward from that good idea?
Yeah. And knowledge is important of a particular sector, because each sector has got its own nuances, and it also has its own secrets of the trade. So unless you have those insights, you will always be like an outsider. You will struggle to get to the crux and to the intricacies of actually making it successful in that particular sector. So it is important to have the right knowledge. It is important to have the right people around you, and also be realistic about the endeavor that you want to pursue. Because, if you have less familiarity with it, it does come with the complexity of you now having to, they say, be thrown into the deep end, and you don't know how strong your backstroke is going to be, as an example. So it's important for you to ensure that, you are always realistic. You always have the right resources and the right networks to be able to help you make your dream a success.
And, KK, you spoke about Absa, and or maybe Henry, you could also assist here. And you said Absa has, a lot of places for you to go to. Perhaps you could just really spell it out for the people on this webinar today, because I know certainly you've got the SME, you've got the enterprise development sector, you have external mentors who can mentor your small businesses. So where do these people go? Who do they call if they've got a great idea? They've got the contacts and they need somebody to help them walk the reality. Who do they phone?
Yeah, we are currently refreshing our website, and you must look out for it. We will have quite innovative and realistic and practical ideas to help you on an entrepreneurial journey. We also have a cohort of extremely dedicated bankers out there. So, if you go into our website, if you go to the area, your geographical area, you will definitely have access to information about your bankers, because those are the trusted advisors that see business people on a daily basis and know the practicalities and are able to take you on your journey.
And I see Luandile has joined us. Hello, Luandile. I mentioned you a little bit earlier because you were putting together your business plan. And you're saying there's two divergent thoughts in the public arena, where on the one hand, entrepreneurs are seen to be seeking funding as their number one need, and funders are not necessarily holding the same view. What would the Absa SME experts say is the number one need that they are identifying as the SME's main need? Excellent question, Luandile. Who wants to grab that one? Henry, maybe, because you're the funding man?
Yeah,
if it's not funding, what is it?
I think it goes back to where do you get support for what? And I think even sessions like this, where you bring in various experts to tell people about various issues about money, is critical. There is no one center of information. I think many of you Liverpool fans are familiar with the phrase that you will not walk alone. It's important that you sit down, and that the idea of you asking yourself that, where do I get this help from, is a good starting point. You've realized you need that help and you want to look for it. So getting into situations like this, it doesn't cost anything, but you gain a lot of insights. So the networks that KK is talking about is important. You need to be out there understanding. So coming back specifically to the question. So if you recall the discussion I had about tell me your story. Okay, then we run the numbers and then I say, here is the money. Then the critical thing I said is that you've got to make it work for you. You've got to make that plan work. You've got to realize it, because you have a great plan, great business plan, fantastic. You get the funding, now you have to go out there and make it happen. You have to go out there and sell those hamburgers. You have to go out there and convince the people to buy your hamburgers and not someone else's. So clearly, how you run your business is very important. The people you surround you with is very important. The people you talk to is very important. And don't be emotional about your business. Don't be emotional about business. I mean, just the numbers never lie. Just work through it. So that working through it means you need to really constantly seek advice, constantly consult, constantly upgrade yourself, your thinking, knowledge. I mean, nowadays, when I think back 20 years, 30 years, starting a business, it was very difficult. I mean, where do you go to get information from? But today, I mean, the internet is there, media is there. There's so much examples that are out there that can point you in the right direction. So money, important, but not most important. It's you yourself are the ones who will make sure that your business is going to succeed.
I think for me, being an entrepreneur is the hardest job. It's the hardest job. And I think we often sell it as, well, this will solve South Africa's unemployment problems, entrepreneurs, rah, rah, rah. If you are prepared to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on your business, then you can be an entrepreneur. And I think that's the question I'm going to put to you. Is everyone an entrepreneur? I don't think so. I don't know, KK, if you want to jump in there, maybe one has to also be reflective and say, am I an entrepreneur?
Are entrepreneurs born or are they made? A very interesting one. I think it's a mixture of both. So you have to have the inherent need to make something of yourself and be independent. And you also need to understand what it takes, because like you said, it is the hardest job in the world. So, you need to also be open to a lot of things, open to different ideas, open to feedback, but also open to new opportunities. I mean, if you look at the enterprise development landscape now, it is a big focus for corporate South Africa. So make sure that you are able to make those linkages to connect, and then you'll be able to determine, are you a made entrepreneur or are you a born entrepreneur? But it really is about making and seizing the opportunity that is presented out there.
Any comment, Henry?
Yeah, it's when you're speaking KK, I was remembering my mother. She loved chickens, so she set up a poultry business, and there she was running it. She liked the busyness of the business, going out there selling the chickens, bringing in the money. But when she ran her numbers, it just was not working out. She was always calling us to help her put it in. And then one time we sat down with her and saying, "Your numbers are not working out. You like this business, but it's not happening for you. Yes, you've seen your sister is actually doing it well, but maybe this business is not meant for you. So you need to be very careful where you apply yourself to. I mean, no emotions, no saying that so and so started this business, look at what he's doing. You don't know the journey that he has gone through. Many of these successful business people, I mean, you might, if you read many of their autobiographies, I usually ask myself, go behind the story. What did it really take for it to make a difference? And you'll find it's a lot of hard work, a lot of pain. We suddenly see them when they're successful, but we were not there when they were going through all the hard knocks that they had to go through. It's tough, but I believe you are tougher, but you need to be prepared for it because you're going to put money into it. You're going to risk a lot into it, your time, your family. So consider it well. But as KK said, there's a lot of support mechanisms today for the SMEs. Expose yourself, get out there, learn. It can happen for you.
And yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I think those are really critical points. And I think the other thing that I see a lot of people making the mistake is when they take, they get retrenched from a business. They get retrenched and they don't know what to do. And they take that retrenchment package and they're going to start a business. But again, it's a kind of a knee-jerk thing. And they really come a cropper. As again, 85% of small businesses fail in the first 3 years. That means you've got an 85% chance that retrenchment package of yours is going to go up, in smoke. I mean, I think we do need to be very realistic about it and doing a lot of research and doing the business plan, spending the time and effort in it. And just another comment that I maybe you would agree with me or disagree with me, but one of the things that I see, just even in myself, when I went into my own business, or I see anybody who starts a business, it takes so much longer than you realize to rate your break-even point or to start to make money. So you need to know that you need to make some big sacrifices in your life. You're going to have to give up lifestyle. You're going to have to cut back because you've got to make that runway last as long as possible. I mean, anyone want to add to that?
I saw it in my brother. I mean, I've been employed all my life. My brother has been self-employed all his life. He says, I'll never walk into somewhere to be employed. I say, even though I know how to talk business well, sit down, run the numbers, give you advice, going out there, I feel I don't have that strength or oomph to go out there. So not everybody is cut out for that. He was cut out for that. He enjoyed it. He had a passion. He really worked for it. And so when you think about your retrenchment, many people are being retrenched today, and then they pull in their money and say, I'm going into it. How many of us have had those stories? When a group with my friends and they were saying XYZ, you had the money in your pocket, you say, yeah, that's a great idea. Then you jump into it, all your money, all your strength, not enough research, not enough support, not enough consultancy. And when you're spending the money, there's that expectation that it will come. 6 months, 12 months, it doesn't come. You haven't put the hard work. It would take almost around, when you hear many of the stories, I mean, on many of the shows that I've had, it takes like 12 months, 24, even up to like around 3 years before you now start saying, okay, now I'm making the money that will help me go into another level. Many of the successful businesses today, when they tell you where they started and how long it took before they broke through, I mean, some 5 years, 10 years. Every time today I see a successful company, I want to know, when did it start? This guy started 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Now, who are you who's going to step in and then wham, we all know about you in 1 year? It does happen, yes, but for most of us, it doesn't.
And I think that's being realistic. And I'm going to come here. I see Nakawe, who's also, by the way, one of our candidates for this year, and she's looking at starting a poultry farm. So we're going to see that's going to be, but she's going to have a really successful poultry farm. But Nakawe asked a very important question. It goes to that, having a mentor. So, how important is it to have a mentor? Is it to have someone who's walked that journey? And what should you look for in that mentor? Maybe KK, have you got an idea there?
Yeah, I think it's about learning about the untold in any particular sector, and that is what a mentor will bring. Practical experience, they'll be able to bring insights that would not be apparent from just walking into any environment. So I really would want to also caution. You mentioned the retrenchment route of taking that package. Just remember that you might have worked for 20 years for that. So I'd rather take a cooling off period, do your research, pretend the money is not there, and really do your research and seize the opportunity when it comes, but be very prudent. You need to make sure that you do not give away, that hard life's work of work. And remember, there are always people out there looking for easy money. Don't be a victim to that.
And I just also, maybe Henry or KK, do you at ABSA assist people in finding mentors? I mean, if somebody comes to you and they've got a good business plan, do you think, oh, you know what, we've got another small business owner that's been successful who would assist you?
Yes, most definitely. I mean, we have mentorship programs, we have alliances with corporates, and you'll be surprised how many people out there are willing to share their experiences. So, you can drop us an email at ed@absa.africa, and we'll be able to provide you with the guidance and also point you in the right direction. We've got a client base of over 300,000 businesses. And, somewhere there's somebody with the right knowledge and the right experience to help you make your reality or your vision a reality.
That is actually a very, very key point. So we'll just see if we can get that link and pop it up in the comments. Just what was it? ED at?
Yeah, at Absa.
ED at absa.co.za.
.co.za or .africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, .africa. Okay, well, let's just get that link up because that'll be great. I mean, a lot of people here, maybe they can be linked with a mentor, and that would help a huge amount. So Luandile, okay, it's an interesting comment. Before I went out into a former business of mine, I heard one businessman say that he weighed up the risk of losing his car and house. In his case, he got to keep them. In my case, I lost a car and nearly my house. What do you think it would take for South Africa or funders like ABSA to see a track record that includes failure in a positive light, like it appears to be the case in SME-driven countries like Nigeria or America? What a brilliant question. Do you not learn so much more from failure than from success?
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. I mean, earlier on when I mentioned about tell me your story, imagine someone telling a story of how he put in a lot of hard work into something, he risked his livelihood into something, they failed. And then they start sharing with you, this is what I learned during that period. And as a result of that, I'm not going to go back and do the same mistakes again. I'm going to make it different. Definitely a great learning. I mean, for me, someone who comes and tells a story that way, I mean, it's definitely a positive. It's definitely a positive indicator. I always remember my grandfather telling me, young man, please listen to what an old man says so that you don't tread on the paths that they've followed before. I'm not saying you look for an older mentor. No, I'm not saying that. But those experiences that you have gone through prepare you very well for what's coming ahead. So I agree with that observation. Someone walking into Absa today said that I ran a business and I failed. I will not hold it against you. I will try and look at positive learnings out of it.
I've had 2 failed businesses. So I know I can come and tell you all of what I learned from them. And I learned so much from those businesses and the mistakes that I made. And I think any good entrepreneur has to have had several failures. Otherwise, they're like that has to be the learning. That is the learning curve. And I think for me, it's about getting back up again. So if you talk to somebody who's prepared to stand up again and take the punches again, then you know you've got somebody who's got resilience. Now, I've got an interesting question from Cindy here, and I mean, I don't know if you guys can answer this, but she said, real estate agencies, why are they not listed as small businesses in South Africa? Are they, aren't they? Or I don't know what that means. Are they considered? I mean, if somebody comes to you and wants to fund a real estate business?
All right, let me have a crack at that. The way I'm understanding it is that I walk in, to your point, Maya, and say I'm a real estate developer. Clearly, if you think about what a real estate developer does, I mean, it's setting up residential, commercial houses, normally large scale, okay? And that requires some serious funding, some serious planning, and a lot is required for equity participation from you who actually wants to do the business. So I think in most cases, it is out of the SME scope. It's not a small and medium enterprise. It can start. You can start. I am a real estate developer, but I've started with one house. Next year I do 2, 3. Next year I do 6. I have 9. And then you suddenly you started off as an SME, but you're in the process of graduating to another level. Because clearly, I mean, usually the journey is, KK will tell you, is you start off small SME and you grow and become some big corporation one day. So I would not, it's probably the definitions of a particular database that maybe someone says real estate is not SME. But again, if you unpack that a bit more and understand what's behind it, yes, a real estate can be an SME, but for most of the real estate people that we know, they are more than just SME.
Yeah. There's also a complexity of resources that are needed to make a successful real estate venture. The technical professional skills that you need, you almost have to have a crystal ball into the market, because wherever you're going to invest in, it must be a well-calculated bet, because if you get it wrong, you must have the capital base to be able to absorb that. So it is a complexity. There's a lot of dependencies on outside factors, municipalities, your councils, a whole lot of things that are not necessarily within your control. However, like Henry said, if you start small, if you calculate your risk well and your opportunity well, and you start small and you phase it in, and you take your breaks, you can definitely start, small and make it big. But because of the complexity, probably that is why it's not classified as a small business.
Okay. So, I mean, I just want to sum up now, because, I mean, I know, what people really want to know is, it's like, how do I take the next steps? And I think it does. I think one of the things that the message we're wanting to get across here is the business plan. And it's really, you can find business plans online. I'm sure if you go to ed@absa.africa, they can send you a business plan template. We've been using them for our Money Makeover candidates. Please pick up a copy of the City Press on Sunday, which will have Lwandile's story a little bit, gives you some ideas. I think you've got to get a business plan template. That will give you a lot of ideas about what needs to be there. Then reach out, ask if you can have a mentor, speak to the business banker. When you get stuck on some of the numbers, like Lwandile was saying, he found it really hard to work out the break-even number. Get some help on that. There are so many resources online to assist you, but I think for a lot of people, they just don't know what they don't know. And I think starting with that business plan template and saying, right, how do I fill this in? What is missing on here? And then going and educating yourself around what is missing on there. And then through that, you're really able to get an idea of what it is you want to do. And once you've got that clarified in your mind, you can then sit with the bank or sit with whoever you need to sit with and be able to have that discussion. But I think a lot of people come in with a very half kind of, like concept, and then they sort of, not really sure about how it's going to be executed. I've got a comment here. Remember, we cannot all be successful entrepreneurs. The nature of life won't allow that. Imagine we all want to, it won't work. Yeah, well, obviously, that's the point I think we've made already. As I said, not everyone's an entrepreneur. So this is for people who believe that they are entrepreneurs. If you don't believe you're an entrepreneur, then absolutely, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. And I think we mustn't always sell entrepreneurship as the solution to everything. But if you are somebody who's really interested in starting a business, to me, that is it. It's planning. I'm a big believer in planning your own personal finances. Get your own personal finances in order, and start that conversation. And start that conversation with your business bankers as well. Is there any sort of last comments that KK or Henry you want to make?
It's a personal journey, entrepreneurship. So while you are doing your research and your planning, do as much of that yourself as possible. Yes, you need to get experts here and there, but the critical success factor around that is once you go on that journey and you do the work yourself, it's almost a barometer of whether or not you have what it takes to really make it in the real world. If you have somebody try and define your dream for you, once you go on the journey yourself, you will not be aware of the pitfalls that are there. So it's a very personal thing, and that will be the real test for you, whether or not you actually are on a journey that you will be able to finish.
Henry?
KK, using the word journey. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, second step, third step. You will get there. Just keep working on it and keep taking those steps. It is doable.
Absolutely. So I think, I think that was very valuable. And I think it isn't easy. It's not easy to start a business. It's extremely hard. And don't be hard on yourself if your first business fails, or your second business, or your third business. If that's what drives you, and I have to say, it's interesting to see Cindy on here, because I know, Cindy's on every single webinar we have. I know she does a lot of research. She works really, really hard. And she's just a natural born person who wants to learn and educate herself. And I think that is important. I've got another quick question. We will take questions if we're not going to end if we've got another question. If I'm not banking with Absa, can Absa Business Banker consider me? Because I'm in Zena and business bankers are not in branches. Oh, so that's why I'm asking. Can an Absa banker help me as a normal client? So there again, what would you suggest? Just get contact to ED at Absa and just ask.
Yes, that's a good first step, because we have, especially post-COVID, we've had to obviously, align to the demand. So you might not always have a business banker in each and every branch, but definitely if you reach out, through our website at www.absa.co.za or ed at absa.africa, we will be able to point you in the right direction and provide you with as much guidance as possible.
And I think what's very important is the virtual world. So certainly we've been dealing with all of our candidates this year have all been dealt with virtually. So that is, I think something we can, you don't have to see the person in physically anymore. You can have a conversation with them virtually, which I think opens up a lot more opportunities. Well, thank you. Somebody's saying thank you for this event. So thank you very much, Mpilo. And thank you both to KK and Henry. And hopefully you're going to get lots of emails after this with some brilliant ideas. I like this, people looking at prisons, looking at water pumps, all of that. And maybe I still would love to run a money makeover where we deal just with SMEs. So maybe that will come about and we can help more people out there. Fantastic, guys. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, and keep on doing the great work around entrepreneurship. And definitely City Press Money Makeover is a good resource. So all the best.
Absolutely. Keep reading it and following. Thank you.
In partnership with
Thank you
Absa.
to all for joining us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.